benefits that our next generation of females will reap from being partnered with a mentor. But on the flip side, the industry at large, sports at large, can also benefit from shaping what will be the next generation of leaders. So it's a mutual beneficial relationship, partnering mentees with mentors. So we're going to dive a little deeper into the mentorship program with our next panel. I'm happy to announce Nicole Jeter West, CEO Underdog Venture Team, as the moderator of the Power of Mentorship panel. And then if you will also welcome Renee Brown, Principal Chief Executive Officer, Renee M. Brown Inc., Advisory Board Member, SIGA America, former SVP of Basketball Operations and Player Relations, WNBA, as well as Anna Blanchard, North America Sponsorship MasterCard, and then you know her, you love her, Katie Simmons, Global COO, SIGA, and Managing Director, SIGA Women. Nicole, take it away.
Thank you so much. We are so excited. So good morning to everybody. Good morning to these amazing panelists that I have the pleasure and honor of being on stage with. I'm excited to just have a really great chat today. So we're gonna loosen up, get excited, right? It's early, but we wanna try and be nearly as compelling and exciting as the videos that just took place. I mean, I am blown away and overwhelmed by the mentees that are part of this program. So let's get into it. Let's talk about mentorship. So I always like to start and root myself in what is the definition of actual mentorship? And I'd like to hear from each of you how you define mentorship. But when I looked it up, it's an experienced and trusted advisor who shares knowledge and provides guidance. And I think there's so much said in those few words, but what has that meant to you? Has the actual word mentorship meant in your life? So Renee, if you could
I'll go ahead and start. Hey, good morning, everyone. And I'm extremely happy to be here to talk about a subject that's so near and dear to my heart, because I know without mentorship, I would not be sitting in this chair. And so what it means to me, besides that, the definition that she gave, it really is a person that is willing to take on a person and give wisdom to them, provide them information that they can put in their toolbox and bring out the best in them. But I think the key to mentorship is not the mentor, it's the mentee. The mentee has got to be willing to do the work. And that's where it all starts. And so I believe, and I believe that I've been fortunate to serve as a mentor for a number of people, but they deserve the credit because they were curious, they wanted to get better, they wanted to improve their personal growth. And so that's the key to me, providing them with tools to put into their toolbox to help them make better decisions.
For me, mentorship was never very formal, so I didn't have specific mentors, and I don't, aside from this program, I haven't been a mentor, like a named mentor. For me, it's been a lot of women, especially in my career, who've been available, and they've always made time for me, no matter how great, like high up their job is and how much work they have to do. They've answered questions, and I've been able to go to different people for different topics. And because of that, I try to be available to those who reach out, even if it's just on LinkedIn and it's someone I don't know, to answer their questions, whatever they may be, because there were people who were available to me who've helped me.
Yeah, I think, hi everybody, good morning. Like Anna, I think I didn't have a formal mentor, only till later on in my career with Emmanuel has been a mentor to me. But apart from that, it was just as much as learning from the people of what to do in terms of good examples, but also some bad examples as well in leadership. So that's been sort of a two-way experience. And I think creating this program with SIGA, it's taught me to listen. It's just as important to listen as well as impart your knowledge. And I think it's a two-way process. And you can see just some of those videos, blown away by their eloquence. I know some of you are watching online, so hi to all of the mentees. But it is a powerful global community that we're building. And there's real strength in it. So I'm looking forward to discussing that a bit later.
Yes, no, I think that's right. And I think, you know, we've all talked about it being a two-way. That you've got to have the mentee as engaged and involved as the mentor. But it also requires there to be some trust there for that to take place. So I'd love to talk, Katie, a little bit, because you started to get into it. But why did SIGA see this as an important opportunity? Why did SIGA want to build this mentorship program out? And how does it really relate back to the overall mission of SIGA?
Yes, certainly. It relates to the overall mission of SIGA by being an implementable way in which we can deliver the gender equity piece. So it all goes back and is underpinned by our SIGA Universal Standards on Good Governance in Sport. And the gold standard is 30% at the moment, gender equity. And it's great to have that standard, but how do we actually implement it? How do we create those pathways? And it seems to me that since we created that program, there was just a real appetite amongst young women to get involved. And some of the women mentees, my first mentee, Sarah Solomar, you'll see her video, you know, she was from FIFA, a big organization. But I guess looking upwards when she was there, she was thinking, well, who can I really ask some of the questions I don't feel comfortable doing? So it was creating that global community. And, you know, we do feel that it's very, very powerful and that it is an implementable way in which we can deliver gender equity in a tangible way and creating those continued pathways.
And it's going to bring about the change that we all want to see, right? I think that's one of the beautiful things about mentorship is that you can see it, you can be it. So I'd love to talk about that because I think there's so much power in that statement. And for so many of us in so many ways, from, you know, if you can see a doll that looks like you and that shows you that that Barbie who looks like you is a dentist, then you think you can be a dentist when you're 6 years old, 7 years old. But when you get out into the work world and as you get closer and you're in your college experience, you're at universities, and you realize as you look out, I want to be a general manager of a team. Do I see anybody who looks like me? Do I see anybody who remotely resembles who I am? And if you can't see that, it makes it a lot harder for you to achieve that dream, for you to actually go forward or even to know what the right path is. I'd love to hear you each kind of share a little bit about that if you can see it, you can be it mentality. And was there somebody that you came across in your life that you saw and said, you know what, because I see that person, I think I can go be whatever it is that I want to be? I was going to start with Anne, but
Sure.
yeah.
Well, for me, I was born and raised in Brazil, and I think the culture there, especially with women, is a bit antiquated. And I didn't have a lot of examples of people that I really thought, oh, that's what I want to be. I just didn't know. And so I came here to college, and my first role was, I was lucky enough to start at ESPN, and there were some amazing women who worked there. And so I started seeing women in those roles, women having it all, or at least trying to have it all. And I started realizing that I could do it too. And it wasn't necessarily that it really sunk in that moment, but when my time came where I was about to become a mom and I was wondering if I could balance it all and all that, I remembered them, and I remembered that I saw them do it, so I could do it too, and it was very empowering.
Renee?
You know, the whole idea, I think if you can see it, you can be it. I think that was my drive all of my life. But it actually started with my mother and being able to see a strong black woman. And so she kind of led the way for me. But as far as sports were concerned, I saw it all around me. I saw it all around me as I was growing up, but I didn't see it in corporate America. So when I had an opportunity to come to the WNBA and NBA, I said, that's something I need to do because I want to pave the way forward. So if they can see me, I use me as the example. And they're able to look at it and say, yes, I can be a senior vice president. And then even in looking at it, making sure that we had other women in those roles as well. But I also see it to believe it, and you can be it. I also looked across other areas. You know, I'm just not full, you know, who's a CEO in another business? Who's a doctor? Who's a nurse? And being able to show women that. And also, for me, I think the key thing, too, and I recognized it early, men are our allies. We cannot separate them out. They are a part of what we do. There is no way I would be sitting here today if Dan had not invited me. I'll end on this to the women. And we always talking about get a seat at the table. I don't think it stops there. I say bring a chair with you. You get a seat, bring a chair. And that's a part of mentoring to me as well.
Love it. I love it. Katie, anything to add on the, if you can see it, you can be it?
Yes, certainly. So I'm a sports lawyer by background. It's not events, it's not public speaking, it's actually law, unbelievably. And when I was a trainee, I wanted to be a partner of a law firm. That was my aim, to be the partner. And there wasn't really that many female partners at the time. And I met a lady managing partner. She had her own practice, and she took a huge risk on me. And she gave me the title of partner when I was 28, and I set up my own sports department within it, and she gave me a credit card, and she goes, I don't have any sports clients, Katie, but go and bring them in. And that's what I did. And so I thank her today because I saw that she created her own practice, and it was really, really empowering.
I think the power of someone seeing something in you before you can see it yourself is so powerful. And I think the relationship that a mentor and mentee have, when there is that trust, when there is that openness, your mentor should start to be able to see things that maybe you can't see yet, but help you to get there. And so that is a pure example of the power of the mentorship. As you think about that relationship and what it has meant, let's take a step back to, there's been some challenges, right? Just being in this space, being leaders in the space, we've all had to overcome some challenges to get to where we are. I think it'd be remiss if we didn't take a moment to talk about what are some of those challenges that you've had to overcome, and do you still see some of those today? How does that play out today? And how have you been able to sort of not only just overcome it, but maybe help someone else who's going through that? So I know I'll start with an example. In my life, I've had a lot of different journeys. So I've gone sort of from being in the professional sports team side at the New York Knicks when I started my career. I left and took what I call an entrepreneurial stint and went outside of sport and worked for a little small media agency, went back to sport, left again, worked for a company called Evelyn's Kitchen that had nothing to do with sport, went back to sport, worked for the USTA and at the US Open. And throughout all of that, there's been a lot of bips and bobs in the pathway. And so someone might say, well, that's not the typical journey. That's not the typical path, right? And so for me, a lot of that was to be able to sort of share that was the journey and path that I went on, and it made sense for me, but that it doesn't take away at all from the things that I can contribute and the value that I could bring, right? So that's something that I definitely have had to overcome in my career. And I think what it's also shown other people is like, there is no linear path. It doesn't have to just be one way. And so a lot of times you will go in and go, I want to be a lawyer. And then turn out and go, you know what, actually I'm going to be the CEO of SIGA. And that's okay, right? Like every path of that journey. So that was for me a challenge, but also then turned out to be an example for some others who have come up to me and said, I really enjoy the fact that there's been this ebb and flow in your path, because now I see that I can have an ebb and flow. So Renee, talk to us about something in your life that's been a conflict, a challenge that you've had to overcome, and then how have you maybe used that to help others?
If we're going to be very frank here today, I tend to speak frank.
Fully.
And since it's a global women's mentorship, I think one of the biggest challenges is a woman in an executive role are women. Are women. And it's something that I'll always talk about. I talk about it a lot. And women have got to get over being insecure with other women because she's younger, or she's prettier, or she's whatever. And get out of the way and say, if you're going to lead, lead. And lead by example. And don't hold a young woman back because you're threatened or you're insecure or whatever you got going on. because I believe that leaders and mentors, and you're a mentor once you're a leader, whether you know it or not. There's someone looking up to you. There's someone trying to get your attention. And I say to women in executive roles to really step back and say, how can I help this young woman here that's curious, that wants to be involved, that's open to learn, instead of holding her back? Or how can I not judge her? It should be a space that young woman, I'm going to say man too, but I will speak to the women, should be able to come to you in confidence and speak to you. So that's something that I've witnessed. Have I gone through it? Maybe in the beginning. But, you know, I was bold when I first got into the league. I was bold, and someone was trying to get in my way. I did not call her out in front of everybody, but when the meeting was over, I walked right into her office, and I said to her, did you want this job? Because if you did, you should apply for it. But they gave me the job, so get out of my way and let me do the job. Now, I wouldn't do it that way now, you know, because I'm wiser.
You've learned. You've learned a little bit of something.
I'm wiser. But I would just say, and I'm gonna try to make it positive. Ladies, in these leadership roles, it is your responsibility to bring young leaders around. It's just like what the Alex and those guys said. Pass the baton. It's okay. You can't hold it.
Yeah.
So that would be something that sticks with me.
I love it. Real talk. Go ahead.
Add
Ann.
something.
Please do.
We've talked about how we've both experienced this women not supporting women thing. And I think I saw it more earlier in my career. I think now it's starting to change. And I mean, look at this group of women. This is why we're here. We're here
Love
to
it.
support other women.
Yes.
And there are people in this room who've supported me, and I super appreciate that. But I think what I wanted to mention was, when you have a woman who isn't supporting you, there are ways to go about it that I wasn't aware of. And I'll give an example without naming any names. I worked the Rio 16 Olympics, and I had a 4-month-old with me. I signed up to work the Olympics without knowing what having a 4-month-old was like, of course. So I had a boss at the time who maybe didn't understand what that meant. And let's just say there were some things that could have been done that would have made it easier for me to navigate 18-hour days and a 4-month-old and living on a cruise ship and all sorts of things. And she said no. And she said, you chose to go, so figure it out. And I did, and I think it'll be 6 years this summer, and I'm still traumatized. But what happened was, a year or two later, I was no longer working with the same team, but I had a conversation with her boss. And I wound up just hinting at some of the stuff that had happened. And she said, well, why didn't you come to me? I would have helped you. And I was just like, oh, maybe if I had, I would have had a totally different experience than I did. So I think and I've dealt with this a few times in my career, if you have someone who's really putting up a roadblock, find someone who will help you take it off, or who will give you advice on how to go around it. And I wish I knew that sooner. I think it would have
Such an
less
important
trauma.
lesson. Such an important lesson that, just because that supervisor, manager may not understand your situation, may not be able to help you in the way that you need to, that's why you need advocates. That's why you need allies. That's why you need your colleagues, because that is going to allow you to have outlets and other perspectives. So great lesson to share. Katie, anything to add on this topic of women and women providing support in this space? I know you would.
Well, I think what Renee said is absolutely spot on, Renee, about women need to help other women. And that's the ethos of the mentorship program. And that's the community that I just absolutely love. These women who are mentors and mentees, there's really no distinction. It's not the mentors platform and we're giving it and allowing the mentees. We're sharing it and empowering it and letting them take over the platform. That's right. And I think that, from some of the negative comments I've had from men, I mean, one of the things is to be the power of being underestimated, but you can use that to your advantage. I think we've all been underestimated, and they don't know where you're coming from when you do catch up. I've been asked in an interview by a man, what's the disadvantage of being female? To which I replied, being asked questions like that by you. Didn't get that job. So I think that, at the same token, there's been equally, just as many men that have helped me as women have. But the unhelpful ones do, hold you back. They have dented my confidence. Believe it or not, I was very, very nervous before, a couple of years ago, public speaking. I felt I couldn't find my voice. So these are all things, by being supported and being around the right people, you can really, bolster who you are as a leader and help others from all the negative experiences that you've had.
There's a lot of power in that relationship, right? And I think you're speaking to both sides of it here of, it is just as empowering as a mentorship can be, and as somebody who's in leadership can provide that empowerment to someone, there's also the ability to dent someone's confidence. There's also the ability to sort of hold someone back. And so we all have great responsibilities in our positions, in our workspaces, but just as good people, to not do that, right? To be really mindful of that, because you don't know what that impact can have. And you may never know what that impact can be, as Anne shared here. So I'm gonna take us down a path a little bit, because Anne, you brought it up. You were in Rio with a 4-month-old. I'm a working mom myself with 3 children. So yeah, I have three. Yeah, 17, 14, and 9.
Not one anymore.
I do. It's for a whole nother show, guys. But we want to talk a little bit about this sort of role as a working mom in this space, and how have you, and I'm phrasing this way, and then I'll tell you why I don't love this word. People often say work-life balance. How do you balance work? How do you balance life? And I think that's a question I can ask all of you, because it's not just about being a working mom, it's just life in general. But the work-life balance to me has always been one that is set up for failure, right? Because if you think about the scale, and you're here, and any one thing that comes off or on, and you're off, and it's never going to be balanced. And so I prescribe to harmony, not balance, because it's helped me get to a place where I cannot try and live in that constant state. But I'd love to hear from you and each of you, but I'll start with you, Anne, on how do you even try to, sort of tackle that balance, or what is your philosophy around sort of work and life?
Where to start? I think it's an interesting topic, and partly because it's coming up a lot with athletes, where we're starting to hear these stories of how they're wondering the same things that we do when we first become moms. Will I be penalized for taking time off? Will I come back and still have the same opportunities? Will people look at me differently? I had a gentleman once tell me that he didn't think women should be hired because they had maternity leave, and he was serious. It was not a good conversation after that. But I think it's an important conversation, and it's great that a lot of these athletes are sort of taking the charge on that, because there are so many comparables to a professional's life. But I think what I'd like to do is broaden the question a little bit. So, to everyone in the room, who's a mom? Who's a dad? Dads do a lot now. Who has had an illness or taking care of someone with an illness? I had cancer at 27. Like, I had to take time off. I had to, there's all sorts of things. I think we all have so much life going on that no one's aware of. And what I've learned is, I used to think it was about reciprocity. So, okay, when I'm covering for you and I'm doing 2-3 jobs because you're on leave, or you're taking care of someone, or a parent has to leave on time and I have to cover a meeting, you better do something for me. And I would get resentful, and people wouldn't. And I was young.
Yeah.
And then what I've realized since is that, you do it because someday you will be that person. And not just mom, but like all these other things that we all deal with. And you're going to need to take that time, and you're going to hope someone's there to pick up and hold things for you. So I think it's about paying it forward, and it's not going to be the same people, but it's just as important.
100%. And for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Katie or Renee, anything to add?
Yeah, well, I mean, work-life balance, what is that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
But I think that, I think you have to enjoy your work. I think if you don't, then that would be horrific. So, follow your passion, and then I think you get the results. I think you need a support network. I don't have children. To be honest, I'm questioning whether I'm going to or not. I almost feel that am I doing it because I'm going to soon not be able to, and that's not the right reasons. But as a woman, it's difficult to say you might not want to be a mother. That's another thing. And I've heard some of the mentees in the program say on the other side, they had children and they didn't have children, and they were kind of prejudiced against because they were like, oh, you're kind of not mature enough to be in this meeting. So it was the other way. So really, as women, we can't win. We either have the children or don't have the children. We still shouldn't be there. So it's, I don't have the answers, but I have a lot of questions.
Lots of questions. I'm with you. We have lots of questions. I think one of the things that we're excited about is the fact that this relationship between the mentee and the mentor, you can explore some of those questions. You can have those really honest conversations that maybe you just don't feel comfortable having in other spaces, and know that that person is trusted, and know that that person is going to give you the best guidance that they can, right, based on their personal experience. So one, I know we've got a lot of mentees watching and who are getting ready to participate in the program, are excited about being in the program. Katie, I'd love for you to, if you can, give them a little bit of a sneak peek of like, what can they expect in this 2022 program, and what's coming their way?
Well, it's going to be bigger and better than last year.
That's what I wanted to hear.
And last year, I mean, it was we went totally digital, which was actually really powerful, because before I was connecting people in the same cities together so they could meet. Now it's gone totally digital. It's global. I can be paired with someone in South Africa. It doesn't matter on that. We've got a bit of a big news coming up. I can't give it away totally, but we are going to be having our first official partner joining the mentorship program, maybe around this room. So that's really going to really sort of catapult it to the next level. It's based on, how it works is it's open to women 24 years or older who are already engaged in the industry and who really want to get to the next level. And, how it's set up is you're paired with a mentee, with a mentor who you've got a similar interest to. And then I leave it up to the mentor and mentee to bilaterally communicate. But then SIGA provides 8 group digital sessions. And those sessions are, range everything from goal setting to mental health to good governance and integrity, finding your leadership lane in life. And then we give them a sort of a lottery, also one for them to choose. One of the biggest ones that we did last year was the sexual harassment and discrimination. And unfortunately, what I did learn was that is still very, very much alive from the mentees and the mentors. And it created a safe space in which to have those dialogues. So looking forward to hopefully being able to put an in-person element this year with a graduation ceremony. That would be my dream, and that they would fly in for it and that they'd be all live here. That would be my aim.
Well, that is all of our dream, and we're all so excited for what this program has started to do and will continue to do. I think none of us will have the ability to even see the full impact that it will have on mentors and mentees, but we'll be grateful and thankful for the work that SIGA is doing in this space. I know we're at time, and so I want to, take a moment to thank Katie and Renee for their time today, for their advice, for their wisdom, for their stories, for their real talk. And thank everybody who's watching and who's participating, and we're excited for the program and what it has to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Brilliant.
Yeah, so a big thank you to our panel. If you in the audience would love to serve as a mentor in the future, or if you're watching from home or from the office and think that you would make a great mentor, or you have things to share with our future generation of female leaders, we encourage you to reach out to Katie. On the flip side, if you know a bright young female who, like Renee said, is willing to do the work and would be a great part of the mentee part of that program, you can also reach out to Katie for that. So again, thank you to our panel. It was lovely to hear from you guys.